What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing real werewolf encounters, allegedly real life encounters with werewolves. Now, I covered something similar when I did real vampire encounters because I was searching for real vampire encounters and I still haven't come across any. So I want you guys to know that as with everything else, I'm still digging deeper. And you guys know I'm doing that with so many different things. I have so many series going. So forgive me if you're waiting for a particular part 2 or part 3 and it hasn't come yet. Just know it definitely will. And most likely soon. I can't even really tell you when. I'm doing my best to keep everything in order and kind of not give you too much of one thing at once. I know some of my videos lately have been kind of on the short side, but that's only because a lot of the time I want to get out like the initial information or give you guys a few encounter stories while I dig deeper. It's really hard to find any information on real vampires, but it's not that hard to find some on real life werewolves. So while today I'm just giving you encounter stories, I am going to be digging deeper into where did werewolves originate? Where did the term come from? Just everything that I can find about them and what we should know about them in real life, because I really do believe that they're real. And as always, the encounters that I put in are some of probably a lot that I found that I actually do believe in, that I do feel and think are real. So as always, and with everything I do, I want to just start with the basics, the simplest explanation of what it is I'm referring to and what we are discussing. And also, as always, there will be more to come, definitely. There's a modern vision of the werewolf, which is almost always false altogether, or some mix of reality and fiction rolled up into one kind of character. The fact of the matter is, as I say all of the time when we speak of the Fae, the modern day concept, which is completely false and so very dangerous for us to be constantly seeing or reading about and getting these false concepts ingrained into our head. Like the Disneyfied version of the fairies, which gives us this impression they are cute and likable, sweet little characters who are ever cheerful and use their magic for nothing but helping humans and perhaps committing a bit of mischievous trickery. Like, think about Peter Pan. However, though, having these ideas in our heads is really bad, because if we ever did encounter a real fairy in real life, we'd be in a lot of trouble because we would not be prepared at all for the reality of the situation. This being the fact that most of them are inherently evil, and an encounter could very quickly lead to injury, death, or things that are so much worse. So goes the same with all supposedly mythical beasts and creatures, and I say supposedly because in this community and on this channel, when dealing with this girl, right, I believe that most of these things are actually real. I believe everything had to have come from somewhere. Vampires, fairies, witches, and even what we are here to discuss today, which is werewolves. According to Wikipedia, quote, in folklore, a werewolf, or occasionally called a lycanthrope, is a human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf, either purposely or after being placed under a curse or affliction, with the transformations occurring on the night of the full moon. Early sources for belief in this ability or affliction called lycanthropy, end quote. And I might have said lycanthropy wrong. I'm not really sure how to say that because I just say werewolf. Again, and as always though, this varies on what you are watching or reading or what your real life experiences have been. So I'm working on a few videos about werewolves in general to see if I can find any real evidence of their actual existence nowadays. Belief in them goes far beyond and before even the Middle Ages. As with everything else we cover here, from the supernatural to the paranormal, I want real stories and encounters. The whole truth as to if there are really werewolves roaming this earth and transforming at the height of the full moon. I want details, right? So as I did with the video on vampires a couple of months ago, I'm going to give you some alleged encounters and let you make up your own mind, kind of form your own decisions as to whether or not you believe in them. I'll have more coming on the subject as always, and hey, if you don't believe in such things as werewolves and vampires, or one but not the other, maybe at least these stories can serve as a form of entertainment for you at the end of the day. Here we are, guys, some allegedly real werewolf encounters. In a 1960 issue of Fate magazine, a woman named Mrs. Delbert Gregg of Gregson County, Texas, told her story of an encounter she had had with a shape-shifting werewolf. I mean, at the end of the day, all werewolves are shapeshifters, but I report to you as I see it. So anyways, this encounter really struck me because it seems so incredibly real, and it's unique in that Mrs. Gregg didn't see the typical man shapeshifting into something else or wolf shapeshifting into something else. What she saw was a bit different. She reported that one night in 1958, when she was alone in the house after her husband had gone on a business trip, when she was getting ready for bed for the night, she decided because she didn't have air conditioning, she would move her bed close to a window so she could open the window and let the cool breeze from the night air come into the window while she slept. There was a thunderstorm coming in from the southern horizon, and it was bound to produce a refreshing breeze for her right there under the open window with nothing but a thin screen between her and it. Right after she fell asleep, she heard what she thought sounded like scratching noises on the screen above her bed coming from the outside of her house, right outside of this bedroom window. When Mrs. Gregg sat up and looked out the window to see what the noise was, a flash of lightning showed her a hideous figure. A huge wolf-like creature with shaggy hair, approximately 6 feet tall, just standing there in her backyard, kind of lurking, if you will. The thing was staring at her with fierce, bloodthirsty eyes. They looked like two tiny little slits glowing there under the moonlight. It looked directly at her, and in another flash of lightning, she could see its fangs, which were bared. Terrified, she jumped out of bed and went to grab a flashlight to try and get a closer look, as she dared not turn on her bedroom light. As she did this, though, she couldn't take her eyes off of the thing and saw it flee from the yard by jumping into a bunch of bushes, and she thought it was running off. She stated, quote, "I watched for the animal to come out of the bushes, but after a short time, instead of a giant shaggy wolf running out, the figure of an extremely tall man suddenly parted the thick foliage and walked hurriedly down the road, disappearing into the darkness," end quote. It's not often we see a story, as I said, where the person sees both the wolf and the man without it being witness to a shape-shifting situation. Let's see what we have next. In southeastern Wisconsin, while driving east on Highway 18 towards Jefferson on a dark night and desolate road in 1936, a man named Mark Shackleman looked to his right and saw some kind of figure digging in an Indian mound. The creature was described as having both ape and dog-like features and was extremely tall. It was covered with hair, had pointed ears, and was standing straight up on 2 legs. He watched the hands closely as the thing dug and said they had 3 fully formed fingers with a shriveled thumb and forefinger on each hand. Terrified, as there was no light but that of the full moon, he just kept right on driving, right? Smart decision. Unable to forget what he had seen, Mark went back to that exact spot the next night, hoping to see the hideous beast again, but had no luck. He said the creature was making, quote, neo-human, end of quote, growling noises. He also claims this growling was all coming out in increments of 3 syllables. So if you can kind of picture that in your head. Many years later, as his son wrote for a local newspaper for one of the big cities in the area, he reminisced on the event his father had told him all of those years ago and wrote, quote, "My father's first thought was that it must be something satanic," end of quote. They never knew what Mark Shackleman had seen that night, but for several decades after, reports of the exact same beast would flood into the papers and police stations, with nobody ever daring to get close enough to see what it actually was. In Ohio, between July and October in 1972, several residents of the same area reported seeing a werewolf-like creature that was between 6 and 8 feet tall and was described by many of them as human with an oversized wolf-like head and elongated nose. Others went further and described the creature as having, quote, huge hairy feet and fangs, end of quote. They claimed it was running from side to side, quote, like a caveman in the movies, end of quote, whatever that means. I'm not sure what that last bit means exactly, but you get the general gist of the story, right? Could what these people are seeing really be the legendary werewolf creature we see and hear and read so much about when seeking out the supernatural? My hope is that with just these couple of few stories, you are starting to understand my main point in this video and what I'll be delving into for the rest of this series. These creatures aren't the romanticized versions we think we know so much about. A loving and kind man cursed to roam the night of the full moon as a werewolf, just searching for love. He catches the eyes of his true love once she sees him for the beast he really is, and is able to stop himself from his very nature, which is allegedly ripping any human he comes into contact with to shreds. No, these creatures are dangerous and work for the devil. I will be looking though to see how this happens to a person. Maybe it's not an evil person who's purposely working for the devil, right? What is this affliction? Are some people born with it, or is it actually a curse? And if so, then put on by whom? Are these men just regular guys who sold their soul to the devil for one reason or another, and the flesh and blood they rip through, tear apart, and consume, the interest payments that are being made directly to Satan or his demons? Is this a result of some terrible sin? I'm not sure yet. If the answers are there to find, though, you all know that I will be the one to find them, and I will certainly be reporting back to you what it is I do find. Whichever way it goes. If it's real, whatever I can find, you guys are going to get it. Let's move on. Now, I know these encounter stories are kind of short, and I did that on purpose because, again, this is a part one, the basics. Are these real encounters? For you guys to decide, I want you guys to let me know in the comments what you all think. 4 teenagers in Gallup, New Mexico claim to have encountered a real werewolf while on the side of a road near Whitewater in January of 1970. One witness reported, quote, "It was 5'7" and I was surprised it could go so fast. At first, I thought my friends were playing a joke on me, but when I found out they weren't, I was really scared. We rolled up the windows real fast and locked all of the doors on the car. I started driving faster, about 60, but it's hard because that highway has a lot of sharp turns. Someone finally got out a gun and shot it. I know it got hit and fell down, but there was no blood. I know it couldn't be a person because people don't move that fast," end of quote. In western Pennsylvania in the fall of 1973, dozens of reports of sightings were flooding the local newspapers. People all over the place were reporting seeing strange ape-like creatures running around. What makes this story stand out is the fact that these sightings were corresponding with a bunch of UFO sightings as well. In the words of one witness, the strange creatures had, quote, "fire red eyes that glowed in the darkness," end of quote. They were also reported to be 7 or 8 feet tall and emitting a horrific odor that you can smell from like half a mile away. An investigator named Stan Gordon reported, quote, "Another type of creature was said to be between 5 and 6 feet tall. It was described as looking just like an extremely muscular man with a covering of thick, dark hair or fur. The arms were very long and hung down past the knees. This creature seemed to have superior agility exceeding that of a deer. From footprints discovered, the stride of creatures varies between 52 and 57 inches. In these reports, there was no indication of odors," end quote. Next, we have on Halloween night of 1971 at approximately 8:30 p.m., a woman was driving on Bray Road near Delavan, Wisconsin. This is about 30 miles southeast of where the Mark Shackleman encounter took place, the guy who saw the animal digging on the Indian mound on the side of the road. The woman suddenly felt her right tire kind of jump off the pavement for a second as though she had run something over. She stopped her car and got out. Almost immediately, she saw running directly towards her, running right at her, a dark, hairy, and extremely muscular creature of some kind. It was like nothing she had ever seen before, and she was immediately beyond terrified. She was petrified right at this point. A great and very deep primal fear struck her the second she saw it, and she was starting to panic. She raced back to her car, got in, and locked all of the doors. She tried to speed away, but the thing proceeded to jump on the trunk of her car. Luckily, though, there was a slight mist of rain that night, and the beast eventually fell from the back of her car due to it being too wet for it to grip onto any longer. This story was believable to me until it went on to say that later on that night, the woman brought a friend along with her to that exact spot, and as they drove by, they saw the form of that same creature rising from the side of the road. This just feels like some kind of add-on to me. The story about the kids who shot it didn't quite ring true to me either once they got to that point. But I like to let you all make your own decisions about these things, so let me know what you think, as I said, in the comments below. The last encounter story we're going to discuss today is very similar to the one above, and it happened on the same exact road, but 18 years later in the fall of 1989. A woman named Lizzie Andreezy was driving down Bray Road only a half of a mile away from the other encounter when she thought she saw a person hunched over, kind of standing back on its haunches at the edge of the road ahead of her. As she drove by, she slowed down to get a better look and saw this thing, this creature who was now within 6 feet away from her vehicle, staring directly at her and into her eyes through the passenger side window. It had large fangs and pointed ears and was covered with brownish gray fur. The woman told a reporter named Scarlett Sinkay, quote, his face was long and had a snout like a wolf. The figure's eyes glowed in the darkness and were a yellowish gold color. The arms were really kind of strange, jointed though like a man or woman's would be. He was holding his hands with his palms upward. The arms were muscular, like a man who had worked out a little bit. The back legs looked like they were behind him, like he was kneeling, end of quote. This whole encounter lasted about 45 seconds, and the woman had no idea what it was she was looking at until she later saw a picture of a werewolf in a library book. Then it hit her. This must be what she had seen. That's all I have for you today, guys. This is going to be a very short one, and I know with my 3 bizarre alien UFO abduction stories, a lot of you were like, this should have been longer. I get it, but the first video, the basics, is always just something that I put out to give you guys a hint of what's next to come, so you can let me know if you want more on this subject. I had a really hard time finding longer werewolf encounters, real werewolf encounters, not ones that are obviously fake or made up. And if I read one and it doesn't ring true to me, even if it's allegedly real or widely accepted as real, I won't put it in my stuff. So let me know if this interests you all. I will definitely find some real longer encounters. I'm going to get into, like I said, the curse of becoming a werewolf, or if it's sin, whatever it may be, I'm going to look it up. It's going to take some deep diving. It's going to take some curling up in those rabbit holes I love so much, but I will take care of it and bring it all to you guys. So if you like this video, if you enjoyed spending this time with me as much, at least, as I enjoyed spending it with you, spread the love by sharing this video, and as always, comment below so we can discuss, because I absolutely love doing that. Remember to be respectful. A lot of people come in and they don't believe, and that's okay. Like I said, just let it entertain you. You can give your thoughts and opinions too. Just everybody always be respectful. Be sure to subscribe if you aren't subscribed to my channel already, and make sure you're still subscribed if you already subscribed, because YouTube, for some reason, is getting weird where, like, I wasn't subscribed to Steve's channel like 3 times at least. Also, make sure your notification bell is on so you can be notified every time I post. Do me a favor, check out the description box for some important links. Justice for Caleb Smith, mine and Steve's 2-hour interview with April Arrington, Caleb Smith's mother. No mother should have to investigate the death of her child, no matter what the circumstances are. We're trying to raise funds for April, and we are going to be doing a podcast with April and the other missing girl who went missing within a couple of days of Caleb, also under strange circumstances, who was never found, Keeslyn Roberts. You can see the video on my channel and also on Steve's. I haven't yet updated it, and we haven't yet set a date for the podcast, but we're hoping to get it done soon. Our schedules have just been crazy. You guys know that, but check it out if you haven't already. Support April, support Caleb, right? Check out the 3 live streams STEMMA, myself and Steve Stockton, does every week. Sunday nights, Fireside Chat on missing persons and mysteries from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday nights, Campfire Stories from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's also STEMMA, myself and Steve Stockton, on missing persons and mysteries. Wednesday nights, Real Evil on Dezombified's channel is kind of postponed, put on hiatus until further notice. Dezombified is having some family things going on that they need to deal with, and they need to take a break from that stream or live streaming, I'm not sure. So we'll let you guys know when that comes back, but don't fret. You can still get your STEMMA fix on Wednesday nights on my channel, this channel right here, from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Steve and I are doing a little bit of everything. A little bit of Fireside Chat, a little bit of Campfire Stories, a little bit of Real Evil, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So come on in and check that out. Well, do I want to say variety show? I don't know. That might scare some of y'all off. A paranormal supernatural variety show / Fireside Chat. Come on in and check it out. You'll find a link for the first one we did this past week down in the description box below. So please, guys, let us know what you think, as always. Also, links to my PayPal and Patreon to financially donate to the channel, help me out with some equipment, whatever. And yeah, guys, always be kind, always choose kind. It doesn't cost anything, right? I know y'all are going to ask. It says kind of care, kind of don't. Smile at a stranger, have your best day, have your best night, and I will see you guys next time. Mwah. Bye-bye.